All right, we're live. It's been a long time. Sam Michael's sitting here. If you're just coming in, make sure you hit that like on the way in. Yeah, I'm just sitting here. Just like old times. Let a few people come in. If you're just coming in, hit that like. Let a few people get in here. We'll give it a minute or two. Then we'll kick it off. So yeah, it's been a while. I know. I've been saying we're gonna, start going live regularly. I'm gonna slowly start going live again. It's a big jump. Uh, we'll get into a little bit of it about the past 7 months. What's up, mixed martial artist? Good to see you, man. Hit that like. It's been a lot going on here. A lot of a big shift, a big change since I first started. And a lot of things have changed in my life, and just I'm not going to get into that in this live. I mean, we can slowly do a progression of it, and I'll take you through some of it. But and yes, for the better, just regular transformation, just like the stuff I talk about on this channel. Excuse me, with the things that men go through in their life that lead to change, and what that looks like, what that leveling up looks like. And it's not always like a smooth transition. It gets rocky at times. And there's a lot of things that change when you're changing, having some, core belief changes, and your worldview and your whole value system is rearranged. And that's potentially it's not potentially, it's rough. It's a rough time, but it's worth it in the end. And it's a must have, it's a must happen if you're going to go through like some substantial long-term quality change in life. You're going to have some, I think a lot of people know it as like the dark night of the soul, but I don't, that sounds a little weird to me. But I guess to help people understand, that's kind of what that looks like. And that's what it's been like for me. A lot of things in all the different areas of my life have. Would you punch a hole in the wall for a donation? Yeah, send a donation first. I'll do it. Um, but anyway, I don't want to get off into a tangent about that. Good to be back. I will slowly start reintegrating lives again, maybe twice a week, just to get my feet back underneath me, get my sea legs. For a while I was every night consistently, and it's totally different coming back. It's a skill. It's a skill, and then the more I did it, the better I got at it, the more fluid it became. We building a community, building an audience. It becomes routine. And then, especially since all these big drastic changes that have happened, it's a lot to. That's right, Bailey. Very good. It's an ego loss. And through the loss of the ego, your worldview changes, your value system changes. There's many substantial changes that come from going through the dark night of the soul and losing your ego. And you as a person, you just see things from a different perspective, especially from a man's lens. How all these beliefs that was so ingrained, that you thought were the absolute. That's right, Bailey. Very good. Become more empathetic. You absolutely do. Look, we got somebody who knows the what we're talking about. Chevy, MMA, he's doing very well. Matter of fact, there's something big that's substantial. One of the substantial changes is something that's happening in his life that, life called me away for a minute and needed my full attention. And that's just the way it was designed and the way it was supposed to be. And I'm starting to feel called back to the live streams. It just came to me today driving. I've been toying with the notion, and me and Mrs. Proudmasculine have been talking. I kept mentioning to her, I think I'm ready to start going live again. And today it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Yeah, Chevy, we're good over here, brother. We good. Doing very well, as a matter of fact. And thank you for coming in, man. Good seeing you. Well, anyway, speaking of the live coming to me driving home today from training my clients. Yeah, I figured, Bailey. It's okay. Well, thank you for apologizing. Ladies and gentlemen, Bailey, are you a girl or a boy? I think we found a very pleasant viewer. What's up, Kaylee? Bailey coming into the chat, starting a joke. That's not the first time I've been trolled and have a troll turned into a regular subscriber. And by the way, if you are coming in, make sure you hit that like button. Bailey's a dude. Well, welcome, brother. Put your, get comfortable because we're going to talk a minute about some shit. And this has been, and all before my lives, nothing was scripted. I didn't take notes. I didn't have topics. I used to go on, what's up, Ryder? Do I have some news for you? I was waiting for you to come in here to make this announcement. Are you ready? Are you paying attention? Let me know because I'm holding up the whole stream until you answer me, Ryder. That's what I don't have is my light. It's been so long since I've done this shit, y'all. I don't have the proper facilities. All right, here we go. Hold on now, and I got to get this damn light. Then we'll get into the news. You know what? Fuck it. I ain't using the light. I ain't getting all that. I'm just going to get all this set up. We'll just get to the show. All right, Ryder, first, Proudmasculine Jr. joined the Army. He signed an 8-year contract with Army, the United States Army. How you like that? He leaves February 24th. Thought you might like that. His MOS is linguist. Yes, active duty, 6 and 2. 6 active, 2 reserve. Linguist and human intel. He did very well on the ASVAB. So he's going to go into intelligence. He's excited. He goes to Fort Jackson in South Carolina, then to language school in California. And then he does a human intel school in California, something like that. I don't know. He knows better than I do. If he happens to pop in, he'll fill you in. Yeah, I thought you might like that. The Kia wants the Kia F, Lackey, asks if I'm gay. What's up, Bob? Bob, New Jersey, man. Long time no see. What a sight for sore eyes. Good to see you in here, man. But yeah, let me prop this thing up so I don't have to hold it. This young man, Lakia, wants to know if I'm gay. I don't know. What does gay mean? Do I like get my dick sucked? Yes. So if that means I'm gay, yes, I'm gay. Um, anyway, let's get on with the show. Good to see everybody popping in. Good. I have a mod in here, Ryder. Stick with me and get the people asking dumb questions and trying to troll, kick them out. Typically, I'd have all my lights and shit set up, but this is a last minute thing. So let's just get right into it. the the thing I wanted to talk about today, because this conversation has been coming into my purview between my lady and I, Mrs. Proudmasculine, my son, other people, peers, all different places at work. All of a sudden, we're talking about the personal growth journey and the healing part of it, and particularly how it relates to being in a relationship. Like, for instance, you broke up with somebody and you start dating again. Have you done enough work on yourself to say you're healed, to be in a healthy relationship? And there's an important timeline where you do put a concerted effort, a concentrated effort into your personal growth. In particular, your healing from the things that have held you back in life, from the negative self-talk, the limited self-beliefs, the things that injured your last relationship that may have been contributors to the breakup or whatnot. But anything that from your past holds you back from going forward and progressing and succeeding and leveling up in life needs to be looked at and healed, right? Because all that stuff's just old wounds. A lot of the stuff we do well into adulthood, until we die, are some things and behaviors we've learned in the first 8 years of life. Our whole idea about love, relationships, about ourselves, most importantly, comes from our early childhood. That's our impressionable years where we really form our identity and these core beliefs about ourselves and how things work and how we view love and what that means to us and how we show up in life and in relationships. Now, the important thing is here, in some instances, your wounds and your limited belief system will show up, usually in something like undertaking a new task, stressful, a stressful situation in life where you're uncertain and you have to show up and perform, is when that stuff will start to come up. And you'll get an idea of the things that you need to work on based on how you talk to yourself when you're trying to learn something new or you're thrown into a stressful situation where you have to figure something out immediately. And that could be in anything, a relationship, work, a hobby, anything. And that's the value of being confronted, is you get to see what's really going on and how do you feel about yourself. So, but what really brings out the the wounds and the parts of you that need the most attention are your romantic relationships. So what we do is we learn this stuff from the first 8 years of life. Then you basically, from early adolescence on, all you really do is live to reinforce those beliefs. Like, if you have a belief that you're not good enough or you don't deserve love or you're not worthy of something, you will just go on doing things that exhibit that behavior subconsciously and surround yourself with people that help you reinforce that, because that's your ceiling. Like, things are going this good, this can't be good for me because I don't deserve that. Or me, take that hard task and get a promotion at the job. No, that can't be me because I'm not smart enough. Or whatever toxic shit you tell yourself from what people did to you when you was a kid. So, but it's easy to hide it. You see, those wounds live deep inside. So living day to day, you can meet some cool ass people who are very superficial, good people to be around, always have good things to say. They look like they care about themselves. In some instances, you're going to see people who typically don't like themselves are going to look like shit all the time and they can't look you in the eye. But they have people who can pull that shit off. There's one place you're going to go in life that you cannot hide that you cannot bury and disguise your true self. And that is in a long term loving relationship. And the reason why is because as you fall in love and you begin to share your life with another person, you're going to slowly start to expose yourself. And it's actually a mechanism in place with humans that's why you have in the beginning of a relationship, it's like the honeymoon phase, where you got all those feel good chemicals brewing and the serotonin and the oxytocin and the dopamines, and you know, nothing that person can do is wrong. That's why you see them red flags and you're like, that's not a red flag. I feel great. This person can't be fucked up. Um, but as you go along and the beginning stages of the honeymoon phase start to subside, which is usually like 3 to 6 months, things begin to subside, but then the real you starts coming out. The mask is off. And that's when you really get to see. That's when you really start to be tested. All the self improvement and the healing and all the stuff we do is all theory until we back in the arena, which means when you confronted with somebody and that you start to expose yourself to, you become somewhat vulnerable and you start to expose yourself to these people. And over time, you become more, when the honeymoon phase, when those rose colored glasses come off and you starting to notice things and they're starting to notice things about you, you become curious. Then you start asking more questions. Then you start listening a little more. And the relationship at some point is going to test you. That's why I say you can't hide this in a long term relationship where you bond with somebody who you really expose your deepest self to somebody, because that's where all these wounds live, deep, deep, deep in your subconscious, deep in your identity. You know, it's easy to put on a little show for a few months where, especially if you have some brains, like, definite things to not do around people to turn them off. Um, you withhold a few things that necessarily don't need to be said, but everything comes out in the open. The cream always rises to the top. And that's where you see where you are. So, on the topic of healing, and people say, went on this healing journey, are they ready for a new relationship? The answer is yes. If you've done efficient work, like if you've taken time, focused, concentrated effort into healing and self improvement, and I'm talking about real work with a professional, um, different means. You could have psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, an extended amount of work where you're able to be brutally honest with another person who's a professional and allow them to hear everything you have to say and then bounce some stuff back to you for you to look at. And it's not just work with a professional, it's work on your own time, your own inventory of self. And a good professional is going to lead you to that. It's going to encourage for you to grow and drop some of these old toxic, patterns and thoughts and it's limited shit about yourself. They can encourage you to go brutally honest inward. Yeah, go inward, brutally honest with yourself. Like look at your shortcomings, because that's the only way you're gonna know what do you have to work on is if you admit you have stuff to work on that holds you back. Um, I'll tell you one of my things was a lack of worth, a lack of self worth, and believing that I deserved to be loved. Only because my childhood taught me that love was very conditional. It was fleeting. Um, what I had to do for attention was a lot of negative stuff, but it got me noticed, but it also got me shamed a lot. So I'd carried this identity into my adulthood, into adulthood. I'd carried this core belief that I'm not loved, but I can still get attention if I do certain things and behave a certain way. And that it was just impossible for me to conceive that somebody would actually love me for who I am. because of all the fucked up shit I've done and the messed up shit I think. Totally untrue. It took me years to uncover and realize and come to terms with it. That is absolutely not true. But where you really test that is, yes, mixed martial artist. Yeah, you can relate to that. So, but my point is, you're going to do this work and you're going to feel a shift, because what happens is the first step is an awareness of, okay, this is something I've noticed about me in the past, that when somebody started to get close to me, I start to pull away and I start to sabotage shit because I don't think what they're telling me is true. They're telling me they love me. I don't believe them because I'm not deserving of love. So now I have to make sure that that doesn't happen and I prove these people wrong again. Because for me, proving people wrong and making mistakes leads to a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. So I'm not going to even allow that to happen. I'm going to blow shit up before it even has a chance to get good. And they get an opportunity to see how unloving I am, how unworthy I am. So I'm not going to expose myself. My point being is it's not until you reach those depths that this stuff is even able to come out and you get to see if the work you really done is feasible. The first thing you have to have is awareness of um the imbalance. I don't know, but imbalance, the limited core belief you have about yourself. There needs to be an awareness of that. And that's why it's so important that you talk to professionals and, read a lot about it, journal. I'm a huge proponent of journaling. Um, but brutally, honestly, I'm not talking about journaling where you wrote, today I stopped for ice cream and, this happened, and just putting stuff on the paper that confirms your biases about yourself and the things you don't want to face. It's the exact opposite. You journal brutally about yourself, that you actually confront and list your limitations in black and white. The things that you don't like about yourself. I'm dishonest. Um, I lack confidence in certain areas, whatever it may be. Get it out on paper. My physical health is shit. I don't like this about myself. Get it out there. That's the only way it can be repaired. It's the only way. And you'll see most people run through life avoiding looking at themselves to see their character flaws because nobody wants to see themselves as fucked up. So what you'll often see is people will surround themselves with and do things like journal for confirmation bias to reinforce that, hey, I'm not so bad. But and people live their whole lives like that, and they just, you'll notice these people that somehow everything that happens is always somebody else's problem. They're always the victim. It's always your fault. They don't take accountability of anything that they do and any results in their life. It's always some external operation or feature's fault that they're not getting what they want out of life. You don't want to be that person. For a little bit of discomfort you have to tolerate to break through that and break through the other side and unlock your full potential, it's worth it. It's going to suck. That's one thing I can guarantee. And this is what I tell the guys I work with, my clients, like, look, we're going to look at some shit you don't want to see. But if you work with me, that's the way, that's the route we're taking, because that's the only way I've done it. And that's the only way I know that works. And I know other people who've been through, similar journeys of self-development and breaking through the limitations and these walls that hold us back from life. They've all done it the same way. It's the recipe for success. And it does suck when you have to kind of go backwards, because in order to do that, you have to go back into the deep on your own. And you got to dredge these things up that you run from and that you're ashamed of and that you hide from, all these core beliefs that are just awful about yourself and these toxic behaviors and attitudes and thinking. And you have to go in there. You got to go back there to get it in order to get it up and remove it and replace it with the truth, which is your potential. And most people don't want to take that ride. I'm here to tell you, 90% of the people on this planet aren't doing that, no matter what happens to them. And, real quick side note, this is why the the most the number one contributor to men going on this self-improvement and healing journey are breakups. What's up, Chan? How you been, brother? Uh, or breakups. There's nothing more transformative and rewarding in this life for a man is to have your heart broken. That pain does something to a man. That pain does something to a man that nothing else in life can do for some reason. But it's an absolute tool. And you know, when I tell these guys when we first start working together, they go, "Oh my God, am I going to get her back? Is she going to come back?" I'm like, "Look, by the time I'm done with you, you're going to look back and realize this breakup, this girl breaking your heart and ripping your guts out, is the best thing that's ever happened to you." I'm like, "What? This is terrible. I feel awful." "No, it's not. I want her back." I'm like, "Yeah, we'll talk in a few months when you're on the other side of this and you're looking back." And sure enough, all of the clients that I've worked with who've taken the path given that I've laid out in front of them all say the same thing. "Man, that was the best thing that's ever happened to me." But it's through those moments that, I don't know, do you call it motivation? That pain is a great motivator. Pain is a fucking catalyst for men to do great things. And somehow you're so desperate to feel better and get something, to retrieve something that you feel like has been ripped away from you, you'll do anything. You're at your most willing in that desperate puddle of rejection that you'll do anything it takes to feel better. And what you wind up doing on accident is transmuting that pain into productivity and self-love and self-respect. So you start doing those things for yourself. And what happens by accident is you become a bad motherfucker on the other end of it. Or you could be the guy who, soaks his sorrows in drugs and alcohol and self-destructs and eats like shit and goes and has a bunch of meaningless sex trying to fill some void. And then you meet somebody and you do the same thing over and over again for the rest of your life and you blame them for it. That's the two outcomes you get. And I suggest you go with the transmuting your pain into productivity and self-love and self-respect. It'll pay dividends. You'll never be the same person. And that's the object, right? The objective is to not be the same person you were, carrying around that same baggage, that same bullshit, the same lies, the same stuff that was put into you as a little boy. And, heartbreak is something that cracks this nut open in men. And they're just like ready. I love it. So, anyway, back to the healing part of that is you're going to do the work. You're going to have some sense of improvement with certain things. Like you're going to do the actual work, but you're really not going to you're really not going to know the outcome until what? Till you get back into the same situation again, until you're back into a long-term romantic relationship with a woman who you really love and who starts bringing you to those deep places again. That's when you're going to know what kind of work you've done. Yeah, these people say, "Oh, I'm healed. I'm better. I'm leveling up." Yeah, you got nothing going on. You got nothing in your way. You don't have anybody challenging you. You've got this newfound identity, and that's great. Believe me, it's great. I love the feeling, and I remember when that happened to me. But there's nothing that's tested you. There's nothing that's challenged you. You haven't been brought back to the deep where you genuinely love somebody and they bring you back to that dark place to see how you react. And here's where people get stuff wrong is that you're not going to be completely healed ever. And healing is not linear. Healing is a up, down, back, forth, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, then back forward, up and down, left and right. That's what healing looks like. It's confusing. It's it's amazing. It's painful. It's all those things. But every time you get through these difficult times, what you realize is on the other end of it, you that's the healing. That's when you know you've healed because you made it through and you see things differently. I'll give you an example. Like when you get into an argument with your, you love this new person. It's going to happen, right? You're going to happen at some point. How do you respond? And don't think because, I went and saw a counselor and I journaled and I listened to you know, I read the books about self improvement and subconscious thinking, and I did some I worked with some hypnotherapists and did some self-conscious clearing, subconscious clearing, and all. I did that. You feel better. You have this great awareness, but you don't know what that's going to be like until somebody pushes that button. And what's going to happen in here, and this is the importance, this is pretty much the whole reason why I made this video, is to express this. The first time you experience that, you're not going to do it right. You're going to react the same way you used to. And it's going to come from the same place it always has because it's never been tested. All this stuff is theory until you put it to the test. But where you recognize the healing is the way you behave. Like if, you know, you're, if you used to lash out like I did, and the person you love takes you back to that place. I didn't lash out because I was angry. I lashed out because I was devastated or I was hurt. And that was the only way I could hurt you back. Just lash out and scare you. Look at me. I'm going to get mad. And you're going to be sorry. That's just a panic fear response, just traumatic response to putting yourself in harm's way with another person, because for so long that meant that was such a devastating consequence. Your body's adapted to a defense mechanism to protect you. And that was the way I used to protect myself in the past. Well, I've done it, as a changed man, as a person who's done years of work, years, intense, deep work. And where the healing is when you realize, what's up, Craig Thomas? I'm in Ponchatoula, brother. What what I realize is that, yes, I reacted like that. I was pushed into a corner. There was something very hurtful said that triggered that old "let's get them" response. The difference is it didn't align with who I am now, and it didn't align with who I want to become, and it didn't feel good anymore. I didn't feel accomplished or like I did something. I felt horrible. I felt demoralized. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That means the stuff I've been doing is working. I'm not that same person anymore. That's a that's it. That's a win. Now, do you have some repairing to do because you may have said something back or acted a certain way? Absolutely. But a healed version of you knows that. And the healed version of you is willing to go through that with that person. And so this is the reason why you can enter in a relationship before you're perfectly healed, because you're never going to be perfectly healed. The important thing is entering in a new relationship with somebody who's on their healing journey and and you being on your healing journey. A healthy relationship signifies that two people do that together, where they do some old shit and you do some old shit, but y'all both acknowledge it, that that's not a part of you you're going to see again in the future. And here's why. And then that person accepting you for where you are in your journey, right? Because that's important. And you accept them. That's how healing takes place. That's what it looks like. You don't go off to Tibet and go in a monastery and go in a silent retreat for a year and go do ayahuasca. I mean, those things are helpful, yeah, but the real healing's done in the trenches. It's in those moments that bring you back to that dark place that's going to tell you how you're going to respond and how you're going to handle it in the future. So I actually, being in a relationship with somebody who understands and will still love you for that is more therapeutic than all the other stuff. Because at the end of the day, all these wounds and lashing out and all these horrible things we say and do to other people come from a fear of not being loved or being lovable or worthy in some way. And when you're with somebody who says, all right, I saw that about you. I don't like it, but I'm not going anywhere. Make sure that shit doesn't happen again. That's love. And that's something every human being has been searching for since the day we got on this planet, since the day we popped out our mom's ass, is that security, that feeling. That's life to us. That's a life force. And having someone who loves you in total for everything you are, who's who knows your flaws and will still say, I love you. What's up, DT? Somebody says, yeah, I saw that. I heard that. I don't like it, but I still love you. And we'll work through this. That's healing. That's what it is. That's what true healing looks like. What's up, Henry? Doing well, man. Thank you. How are you? Good to see you, y'all, man. Popping up in here. So yeah, don't get discouraged. Don't think you have this. Well, you do have a monumental task, but it doesn't mean your whole life's on hold until you reach, level 5 of healing. What it means is you begin that journey, you start having awareness, you have these breakthroughs, and you know things are different. Don't saddle yourself into thinking, because that's almost the same thing as repeating the old behaviors. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. You'll know when it's time. And don't get discouraged when you do get to that point in a relationship where there is conflict, because there's going to be. You can't put two people in close proximity for a long time and not butt heads, not have some kind of conflict. It's how you handle the conflict is what defines what that relationship is, what it's going to be, and you as a person, how you handle that. Because if you really love somebody, they're going to take you to the test. And that's when you see what kind of work you got done. It's not when shit's easy. Nobody's being tested when it's easy. Bills are paid, cars running, groceries, fridge is stocked with groceries, sex is good. Yeah, I'm doing great. How do you act when it's not? When it isn't like that, when life is not throwing you, a fastball down the middle. What's going to happen when you start getting curveballs? Are you still going to be able to be as effective? And that's when you know the work you've done through the tests. And it's nothing that's going to test you more than a relationship with somebody you really love. Because if you don't love them, they're not going to be able to reach those deep spots. They're not even going to be able to affect you like that. And that's another thing I wanted to mention is that's a good sign that you really love and care about this person and they really love and care about you because you have access to those places and they have access to yours. That speaks volumes. Now, what you got to be careful about letting that turn into dysfunction is if you've lived that way for so long, you may mistaken that dysfunction for love, and it's not. But that's part of healing, that you realize that's not love. That's dysfunction, and I need to fix that. And the other person can say the same. This isn't love. I need to fix that. That's when you know you're on the right track and the work is paying off. And that's the reward. And if you and the other person have really done work and really love each other, you'll do your absolute best to never make those same mistakes again, to do some destructive shit like that. So, yes, if you're not 100% done, because you're never 100% done, because you'll never know if you're 100% done until you're confronted with some shit, something real. You can get into a relationship and you do the same work that you were doing on your own, except you do it together. And it's actually the right person can be a benefit to that. If you're in if you in the process of healing, recovering from a lifetime of fucking toxicity and dysfunction, and you get with somebody who constantly repeats that and brings it up, then yeah, you got a problem. It's not somebody you should be with. But when you're with somebody who can handle that, not in the moment it gets crazy and explosive, because they're just dealing with their shit too. That's just two wounded people who reopen up each other's wounds. That's all that is. It's not who the people really are. It's their past fighting. And yeah, well, if you do want to work together, hit me up, proudmasculine@gmail.com. Fred Marines, good to see you, brother. Or on Instagram, the link's in the description. Oh man, I'm glad I did this live. And it's good to be back. And we're not going to be every day, but I'm going to be spotting them in a couple of times a week here as time allows. But it was good to see everybody coming in. Ryder, DT, Fred, Henry, Chevy, MMA, all of y'all. Good seeing y'all. Yeah, I missed y'all too, man. Let's get back to it. Let's get busy. If you haven't yet, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know I'm going live. Hopefully by now, the BAN that was forced on me from that show I did a year ago is lifted and I can get my regular traffic back. Hopefully. It's been long enough. But everybody take care. Y'all have a great night. What's up, Rock? Doing well, man. Hope all is well. Yeah, man, doing good. Thank you for asking. So y'all keep an eye out. Make sure your notification bell is rung so you'll know when I'm going live. That's it. We're going to wrap it. See y'all on the next one.